Another big news, all that's happening between Trump and the Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Well, the tensions which continues to linger between both the countries. In the latest, US President Donald Trump has said that Iran has now called off executions of the demonstrators and that he was told that the killing has been stopped in the country. However, Trump did not rule out the kind of action that Washington, D.C. could take. Trump said that he is still weighing military action and that his administration would continue to monitor the crackdown in Iran. And this, of course, comes at a time when the United States of America has started to withdraw some personnel from its airbase in Qatar. Meanwhile, Iran continues to blame US and Israel for the demonstrations. Perhaps Tehran has pushed the blame outwards. And in a fresh warning to Trump, Iran said, don't repeat the same mistake. And Trump has said that any regime can fail. So this is where things stand when it comes to Iran and the United States of America. Listen in to the reactions that are coming in on this.
On Iran, you said that the killing has stopped. Who told you that the killings have stopped there? And if it's the Iranian regime?
We have been informed by very important sources on the other side, and they've said the killing has stopped and the executions won't take place. There was supposed to be a lot of executions today, and that the executions won't take place. And we're going to find out. I mean, I'll find out after this. You'll find out. But we've been told on good authority, and I hope it's true. Who knows, right? Who knows?
We've seen the body back.
Considering some kind of action to help the protesters on the ground. If you have a message for him, what is the message?
My message is do not repeat the same mistake that you did in June. You know, if you try a failed experience, you will get the same result. And the determination also cannot be bound. Now, Iran proved to be ready for negotiation, for diplomacy. We have proved that in the past 20 years, in 2015, in 2025, every time. But it was the US who always escaped from diplomacy, who cut the diplomacy and opted for war. My message is between war and diplomacy is a better way, although we don't have any positive experience from the United States, but still diplomacy is much better than war. But it is up to the US president to decide.
All right, we have some breaking news for you at this point of time. Pentagon is now redeploying a U.S. carrier strike group from the South China Sea to the area covered by U.S. Central Command, the CENTCOM, which includes areas in West Asia. And this, of course, the redeployment of a U.S. carrier comes at a time when there are rising tensions between Iran and the U.S. President Donald Trump. And to decode this further, my colleague Vishnu is now joining me live. Vishnu, tell us more about how crucial is this and what kind of messaging is being sent across with Pentagon redeploying a U.S. carrier strike group in the area?
Well, I would, suggest quite immediately that America's potential strikes on Iran are not premised on the arrival of this carrier strike group. This is the carrier strike group involving the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln. It is, I believe, deployed in the Asian region, in the Asia-Pacific region, possibly in the South China Sea, making its way likely through the Malacca Straits. It'll take approximately a week before this warship and its frigates and its destroyers and cruisers and submarines to accompany it. Now, America is already very heavily militarily present in the Gulf. They've got bases all over the place. There is a large deployment of US fighter aircraft as well. And therefore, while a carrier strike group, which has been at the center of American attack forces as part of their doctrine, that ship, when it does arrive, is all very well. It'll take about a week for it to arrive. But America can go ahead and do strikes essentially when it wants.
Right, Vishnu, and this, of course, at a time when Iran has also warned its neighbors that that the US and Israel military targets can become legitimate targets if there's any attack by the United States of America. And now we're breaking this on NDTV that US is now redeploying its carrier strike group in the area. Over to you, Vishnu.
That's right. And, Iran is repeatedly making threats, and these threats are for all American bases. They've got huge bases in Kuwait. They've got bases in Qatar. Of course, Israel is the enemy of Iran, publicly stated. Therefore, it is quite likely that if there is a missile attack or any attack militarily by the United States on Iran, then Iran would retaliate using massive ballistic missile attacks. Now, remember, there are missile shields which are available. There are missile interceptors which are available for US forces and Israeli forces. The worry is how many incoming ballistic missiles actually leak through that, because if they do, it becomes quite dangerous. But it does appear that military strikes against Iran cannot be ruled out at this moment. The statements made by the US President Donald Trump are particularly belligerent, and therefore the days ahead will prove to be absolutely critical. Let's see what exactly happens.
Right, thanks Vishnu, getting us the latest. All right, my colleague Shiv Arur has now explained the 9-step escalation to the US-Iran tensions amid massive demonstrations in Iran against the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Take a look.
I've been speaking to analysts for the last 48 hours to throw together what I'm now going to show you is a 9-step escalation ladder for how things could in one scenario actually play out. And if the last few days are any indication, viewer, nothing is too far-fetched. So let's begin with how this escalation may actually take place. Step number 1, the execution of Irfan Soltani. He is the young Iranian rebel who, after hundreds of protester deaths in that country, the Iranian regime plans to hang a prominent protester, the young Irfan Soltani. Trump escalates. This is, of course, an imagined scenario, but by saying that a red line has been crossed, and he urges protesters to arm themselves and seize local institutions immediately. Now, this, mind you, is a simulation of how things could actually play out. Step number 2, what happens next? Covert aid is then sent to Iran protesters. This, some say, is already actually happening. The US deploys drones for covert airdrops to protester groups, enabling protester groups early seizure of police stations and media outlets. Then this escalates to step number 3, which is cyber attacks on Iran infrastructure. US and Israel launched cyber attacks to disable networks, power grids in key cities of Iran and command centers, creating chaos, allowing protesters to seize government buildings without immediate regime response. Then we go on to step number 4, where there are proxy strikes that take place via US allies. The US is not involved directly yet. In this, basically you have the US authorizing Israeli and Saudi airstrikes on Iran's supply lines, clearing paths for protesters to advance into the deeper areas of Iran, the sensitive sites. Then comes step number 5, where direct arming and training support begins, courtesy the United States. When this happens, the US escalates aid with heavier weapon drops like anti-tank missiles and mines and embedded special forces. That's the most important thing. Facilitating coordinated seizures of provincial capitals and institutions in the most important parts of Iran. Then we move to step number 6, targeted drone strikes on suppression forces. In this, the US conducts drone strikes on Iranian units involved in protest suppression, protecting seized sites. This is very easy for the United States to do because they've got bases to operate drones from virtually all around Iran. So it's actually pretty simple for them. Then comes step number 7, which is broader airstrikes. This is where the real might of the US military could hypothetically come into play. Airstrikes and blockade enforcement around Iran. The US bombs Iranian bases and enforces a naval blockade around the Persian Gulf while airlifting advanced gear directly to protester groups to seize central institutions of Iran. Then comes step number 8, which is very crucial. This is the penultimate step, top-level assassination operations. The US ramps up with precision strikes, eliminating the supreme leader, the Khamenei, the IRGC generals through allied special operations or direct missile hits or decapitation operations, as they are called. And finally, viewers, step number 9 is regime change in Iran. This is the end game. This is the outcome that President Trump wants. Whether it takes this path or not is anybody's guess, but this could be one hypothetical extreme escalation scenario as to the way it works out. The US sustains massive airstrikes, enabling protesters and groups to carry out regime fracture and transition to a new government. 9 steps to a new Iran.
In an interview with Fox News, the exiled prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, has alleged that at least 12,000 people have been killed in the weeks-long protest in Iran. Pahlavi hailed US President Donald Trump and said that the people of Iran have listened to him and continued to voice the opposition against the regime. Take a look.
Sad news is that we had more casualties in the last 2 days, 4 times the number of people who were dead as a result of the 9/11 terrorist attack.
We're trying to get our head
plus.
around that. What is the number? That
About 12,000 plus.
12,000 plus.
That's what we get so far. It might be more, but that's the minimum number that we know so far have been killed.
Killed by the regime. This is not arrested. This is killed.
We are talking about using military weapons, AK-47s, armored trucks to shoot to kill unarmed protesters. Their bodies are being picked up by bulldozers, and they charge each family for the bullet to be able to just retrieve the remains. It's abhorrent what's happening.
Obviously, we have no way to verify that independently. We've had reports of 3,000, 4,000 plus. The president's talked about thousands. And he said that it's crossing this red line, and he's going to make a decision. You've been on record before opposing U.S. military intervention in Iran. Are your views different today?
But when you have civilians being murdered, massacred in a war that is waged against them by their own government, when the regime orders troops to fire on unarmed crowds, defenseless people, the only way they have a chance to have an equal playing field to overcome this regime is when they cannot neutralize this repressive force. Some additional help is needed. I don't look this as an aggression to a country. I'm talking about helping a nation liberate itself by giving them assistance that cannot otherwise obtain on their own. That's why it's critical and empowering when a message of strength says we are not going to stand for this and we will not turn our back on these people.